The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. Houndoom, give him a trial by fire. There was nothing Gold could have done. Karen's command was so sudden and Houndoom's reaction so immediate that the flames were out of its mouth by the word fire. Gold didn't even have time to fling his arms up to shield his face from the heat. As it turned out, he didn't have to. Almost before Gold felt the blaze, the flames transfigured themselves. From an angry and hellish scarlet, they brightened to a gentle golden hue. The shape broadened horizontally outward, taking on the definite appearance of wings. The main body of fire was likewise transformed, in the blink of an eye, to the likeness of a slender-necked bird. It lifted its faceless head towards the perplexed-looking Houndoom. In one motion, the golden wings flashed out to their full extent, and a spectrum of colors burst forth. There was a rush of sound, like the crashing of waves, and then nothing. The bird, the colors, the noise, and even the fire was gone, as if it had never been. But it had occurred. Gold saw Morty looking on in amazement, clearly feeling the same awe as himself. Houndoom, on the other hand, gave a deafening yelp of fright and whirled around. With tail tucked, it hurtled past Karen into the darkness, yipping like it was being chased by a swarm of hornets. Karen turned as it went, her face bewildered, and called to the hound, "Come back! Where are you going? Houndoom! Houndoom!" After a minute of waiting, but no sign of Houndoom returning, Karen refocused her attention on Gold and Morty. Naked fury stamped her features, but also the beginnings of uncertainty. Lifting another Pokeball in hand, she glowered at Morty. "Explain this! Did you have your ghost Pokemon do something just now?" Morty gaped at her. "Did you not see the Firebird?" he asked. "No, I didn't see a Firebird!" Karen screamed. "I saw Houndoom breathe fire, then take off! What kind of illusion did your ghosts pull?" "Nothing!" Morty protested vehemently. "Dark types have advantage over ghost types! You know that better than I do!" "That's a lie! You're protecting him! I know it!" Karen flung her Pokeball like a grenade, and both Morty and Gold darted in opposite directions to avoid being hit. It bounced off the sidewalk and continued to roll until it reached the edge of the high grass. However, it did not open. Gold watched it with cautious curiosity, but it remained shut, like an empty Pokeball. Karen stared, now completely flabbergasted. "Umbreon!" she cried, her voice and shoulders trembling. "Come out of there now!" The Pokeball just sat, no more harmful than a fallen apricorn fruit. "I'm not doing that either," declared Morty, raising his hands in a sign of absolution. Karen stared at Gold, her eyes wide and wild. Yet he could practically see the gears turning in her head. Perhaps she had not believed any of the miracles reported before. Now, however, things were happening right in front of her that defied explanation. He'd wondered why she herself, the head of the Johto Elite Four, would come out personally to hunt him down. For all her skepticism, perhaps there was a superstitious part of Karen that she needed to quell, and only confronting Gold would do. Unfortunately for her, it seemed that she had only gotten the opposite effect. Here he was, powerless, yet invulnerable to anything she tried. Gold watched Karen's body language, the heavy breathing, the twisting fingers, the rapid movement of her eyes, all as she struggled to regain control. She licked her lips and swallowed with apparent effort, then pointed at Morty. He straightened, and she moved her finger to the Pokeball on the ground. "Bring that to me." Morty looked warily at her, and at Umbreon's ball. Slowly, he approached it, bent, and took the Pokeball in his left hand. He held it away from himself as he walked to Karen's side, as if the thing were a severed head, or as Gold saw it, a grenade that had yet to explode. Wordlessly, Morty passed the ball to Karen. She took it, but held his eye. "I charge you, by the authority of the Pokemon League, to obey me now. Take out your gym's badge." With a rapt but anxious expression, Morty reached into his sweater and brought out something too small for Gold to see properly where he stood. Karen spoke in a solemn tone. "This badge is the life and safety of all that you love. You've been lax in your duties to the Johto League until now, and tonight was meant to be a personal demonstration of just who you're dealing with, how far she can go. It still will be. Swear to me, on the Fog Badge, that you will keep the boy detained here. Do not help him. I will return soon with Houndoom, and then we will finish the trial by fire." I swear, wheezed Morty. His headband had become soaked with sweat. Karen gave him a baleful look and held it for a few long seconds. She shot one last glower at Gold, turned, and marched off into the dark. The rhythmic clacking of her heels faded to nothing, and only then did Morty drop to his knees. He slumped forward, making a noise that was somewhere between a sigh and a heavy groan. Gold, feeling his own swoon coming on, plopped down where he was, and sat cross-legged on the ground. His empty stomach gnawed relentlessly, but the constant tension of the last few hours, the last few minutes, had been even more draining. He looked over at Morty, and Morty peered back at him. They concentrated on their breathing for a moment, and then the gym leader spoke up. "You should move away from that spot," he said. "Some huge pincer are known to live here." 13 years we've been neighbors, Gold panted, ignoring the comment. "And you never thought to mention that your boss was the freaking whore of Babylon?" "My boss was Lance," said Morty defensively as he stumbled to his feet. "Until he disappeared, that is. Do you think I was expecting this? Do you believe I would have helped her find you if I'd known she would try to kill you?" "Well, I don't know," shouted Gold, though it made him lightheaded. "You were pretty quick to kiss her feet just now. Is your badge that precious, or are you just scared of her?" "That's not fair," Morty exclaimed, swiping his arm in frustration. "I am scared of her, and I train ghosts for a living. Can't you appreciate what just happened? Even if it didn't work, she's the kind of person who would catch someone she hated alone at night so that she could burn them to death. So what are you doing helping her?" Gold demanded. "Hell, why isn't the rest of the league all over her right now? She's one broom short of a witch!" But looking at Morty's pale, frightened face, he saw that his question had already been answered. "They're that scared?" he said quietly. "All of them?" "She's become like an ancient monarch," Morty said, with his head down, his gaze averted. "Perhaps a few were bribed and even willing, but I, at least, have my family to think about." That comment gave Gold pause. Once more, he was distinctly aware of something present, something separate from him that warded off all of his fear. It had not interfered last night when Silver had descended upon him in wrath, so Gold could certainly empathize with Morty's fear of being hopelessly outmatched. Morty, however, was thinking beyond himself. Perhaps in his mind, he envisioned his own mother and father cowering before Karen's Houndoom, while he stood helplessly by. His was a more mature fear. I still have a naive understanding of the world, Gold realized, his eyes widening. And I'm putting a wedge between myself and my former mentor, my friend. This can't be about me and Karen, or Morty and his status. It must be about something greater.